All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
You've reached the internet's home for all things masonry. Join On the Level podcast as we plumb the depths of our ancient craft and try to unlock the mysteries, dispel the fallacies, and utilize the teachings of Freemasonry to unlock the greatness within each of us. I have you now. All right. Welcome to On the Level podcast. This is a new format for us. We're recording video and audio at the same time using a new platform, and we have an interesting situation where my partner, Fred, from On the Level with Fred and Chris, has decided to move on from doing the podcast. He, as you know, he started a new business and he has other things going on in his life. And so he's not going to be with us anymore, at least as a regular on the show. And so it's going to be On the Level podcast instead of On the Level with Fred and Chris is what decided to change the name of the podcast to, just in case I die and somebody else carries on, or we get another co-host or multiple co-hosts. I thought about, my wife suggested On the Level with Chris and Friends. But again, what if I died tomorrow and you can't find another Chris to host? So it's now On the Level podcast. And this is going to be our first episode of season 3 of On the Level podcast. And you have a special guest with us today. And her name, first time ever we've had a woman on the show that we know of, Catherine Ponomarenko Burns. Yay! But Catherine's with us today. Hey, Catherine is my wife. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Hello.
Hello. And I thought, Fred and I had an idea a while back to have our wives on the show together and let them talk about their perspective in Freemasonry, because this show in particular isn't just for hardcore Masons. It's also for people that are thinking about Masonry. And we're hoping they find our podcast and listen to some things and learn about it. Because that's what I did before I joined Freemasonry. I listened to a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts. And we thought it'd be a great perspective to have our wives talk about what their experience with Freemasonry is. And there's good and bad, I'm sure. It's not all bad. It's definitely not all good. But we thought, I thought it would be great to have my wife on, who you hear me talk about all the time. Almost every episode, I make a reference to my wife or her family or something we've talked about or something that's going on. And that's because my wife is my best friend. She's my business partner. We own a digital marketing agency together called Digisphere Marketing. We've been doing that for 6 years now.
Almost 7.
I'm already failing. Almost 7.
Yeah, a couple months away from being 7.
Almost 7 years. And we work out together. We do everything together. And I know that's weird for a lot of people. It's not weird for us, which maybe is weird in itself. I don't know. But I thought, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on and being here, especially on our first test of this new software that we're doing. Yeah, I appreciate it.
This forced me into it, guys. I had no choice.
Yeah. I'm definitely... Don't say that. They'll come to get me. This is, forever on the internet. So, you've been part of my Masonic journey with me, and not a lot of people know about you or what your involvement on my Masonic journey is. And there are just for every man, there's a significant other. Okay, we have all kinds of men in the fraternity, and some of them have husbands and some of them have wives, but everyone has a significant other. And so I'm sure that your perspective could be relatable to a lot of people. And I just thought I'd start out by saying, what's your overall perspective on Freemasonry now that I've been in it for? You've been really close to it now for what? since 2018, right? That's
Mhm.
5-6 years, I guess, almost. What's your
Yeah.
overall perspective on the fraternity? What do you think about it?
Well, you might regret asking me to be on this show. I'm just
No, I
kidding.
don't want to hear it.
I have mixed feelings. Most of them are positive, but like any organization, it's not perfect. But overall, I would say that if you take it seriously, at least from what I've seen, you will get something out of it that will personally benefit you as a man. Um, but I've seen you grow into a better person. That's for sure. Not that you're horrible before. Um, but yeah,
That's like, I don't know. I tell people that that's a big thing, is that the reason my wife let me do all the things I did in the fraternity is because you saw the benefits of it. You would see me be maybe more of less quick to talk, maybe think a little longer before I reacted, maybe a little more tolerant. I don't know. That's what I tell people. Is any of that true?
yeah, that is definitely true. I don't think you've ever in your life had a moment to like look inward and see and analyze yourself until you became a Mason. I think you spent more time trying to fix things that you didn't like about yourself and have relationships with men that you never had really because of how you were raised.
Yeah, for sure. And I also tell people that your family has a negative view on the fraternity. I say it a lot. We
It's
talk about
not
it a lot.
entirely true. That is not
Yeah,
true.
so honestly, correct me if that's not entirely true.
They don't understand what Freemasonry is. They get religion, organized religion, and different beliefs. They get that. They just can't wrap their mind around what Freemasonry is. So we have to constantly kind of explain it every time we hang out with them and the subject comes up. And they're curious over time and ask more and more questions. And I think that over time, with that, they're able to kind of get it. But in the beginning, they were very like weirded out. Like, what is this? Is it satanic? Is it, um, it's all secretive, and they don't understand that part. But
Yeah,
um,
that's true. I think that's a sticking point for a lot of people, is that it's secret, or there's secrets. And I sat with your dad one day and I asked him, why? What is the main issue you have? And he's like, it's secrets. Secrets are never good. Secrets are bad. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Don't you have secrets? And he kind of looked at me like I was, what? And I'm like, you have secrets, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, do you want everyone to know your secrets? He's like, no. I'm like, does that make you bad? He's like, no. I'm like, how can you judge Freemasonry then because they have secrets? And you can't reason with people. If they don't like something, they're just not going to like it. They're going to find
yeah,
a reason not to like it.
at the end of the day, we just have to let them know that this isn't a religion. Freemasonry isn't a
Right,
religion.
right.
It's not an organized religion where people come together. It's actually very different than that. It's multiple religions are every religion is welcome. Um,
Yeah, that's another big misconception, I guess, is people think it's going to teach you something opposite of your religious beliefs, and people don't like that. They're like, oh, if my daughter is a Christian, I don't want her husband getting her involved in Satan worshiping or whatever the heck they think the religion is in Freemasonry. But I think that's like the toughest one to overcome, because people don't want to believe that it's not a religion. They
yeah,
just
the way I explain it is I basically say it's Boy Scouts for adult men.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
It's very similar. You have to go through different phases. I don't know, memorize things, get pins, just like Boy Scouts do. And if I explain that to someone who doesn't know what Freemasonry is, they like laugh, but they get it because it's like, oh, that's what they do. They just get together like a fraternity and memorize things and get
Not
pins.
everybody does the memorizing stuff. That was mostly I got obsessed with it. You got a different experience than a lot of people get because
Oh,
I
I would
know.
see him talking to himself all the time, and I'm like, well, "Are you on the phone
Yeah.
or what?" And you're just talking, memorizing things.
Yeah.
But either way, Boy Scouts, they do things and they get pins. Like Masons also get pins and they move on up, you know,
Yeah.
depending on the involvement.
It's true. But, I think because I stopped talking about it with your family and really with anyone that has an issue with Freemasonry, I just don't engage them anymore. But I hear you defending it more than me these days. Or, your family will always, when they're traveling, I get photos from your sisters or your brother-in-law of Masonic lodges that they run across when they're traveling. They're like, "Hey, look what we saw." So it's clearly on their mind, and they don't think it's so negative anymore as maybe they did at one point.
I
And I
guess like
think,
anything you don't know,
yeah,
you're gonna question it.
I remember the first time I played piano at your parents' house. Your dad was like, Why did you learn this? Are they making you learn this in the Freemasonry people?" I was like, "No, they're not making me learn music. Even if they were, how's that negative?" No, it's
Yeah,
not.
I
No.
don't understand it entirely, but like I again try to translate what you do, I
Yeah.
also bring up the fact that it's kind of like when someone is running for office and you got to become, like a governor, senator, some kind of involvement to work your way up. So, when I tell them that the founding fathers were actually Freemasons, like
Yes.
all of that information is so amazing to them because they're like, wow, okay, that makes more sense.
And your family, most of them are first generation. They came or not. They came from another country when in their 30s, for example.
Yeah.
So they probably don't know as much about the founding fathers as you do, for example, because in school here they drill it into you, right? Like founding fathers and the Pilgrims and George Washington and all
I
that.
mean, when you have to apply for citizenship, you have to memorize certain things, and everyone knows the certain, presidents. So they may not know the details of everything of the founding fathers, but they definitely know how the country was established and what was
Yeah.
involved. So they understand when you tell them who the founding fathers are. Everyone dreams to come to America for the freedom, So they understand that the founding fathers have
Yeah.
given that to us. So
And
for
you've
them,
been with me. We together for my birthday went to DC, Washington, DC, and we went to the Washington Memorial. And I think that was kind of eye opening for you because I don't think you knew so much about George Washington's involvement and like how involved Freemasonry was in the formation
yeah,
of our government and really, still today, like the way it operates in some ways came from our fraternity. And I was surprised how surprised you were. We talked about this when we went to DC, and I said, "Yeah, my wife was like shocked because they don't teach this in school. Like
hmm
it's a huge part of our history, and they don't teach it in school at all. It's never mentioned. Yet there's a memorial right outside DC with our greatest founding father's entire Masonic life, and his relics are there, and even more story on George Washington's given to you there."
maybe you
Yeah.
guys shouldn't have secrets, so more of the world would know.
Well, those aren't secrets. They're like that building. You can see it miles away, right? It's huge. It's just odd
Yeah,
that people
well,
don't
everyone
know about it.
associates Freemasonry and secrets and something shady or potentially something shady.
I think it gets lumped in with like conspiracy people like the Illuminati, you know, that's a big conspiracy thing, and I think Freemasonry looks just like it, so they assume it's the same thing as the Illuminati. Maybe something like that is
Like
why.
people just don't know much about it.
Yeah.
Just had a meeting with one of our clients, and he found out that his grandpa, who passed away, was a Freemason, and he would have never known what that was unless he knew you, Chris,
Oh
who
yeah,
is a
he sent us his books and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He sent us a lot of his paraphernalia, and this was from the early 1900s. And I immediately recognized the catechism booklets and dues cards and some of the other stuff his grandfather had. And
I was gonna say the rules
but
have changed.
it doesn't like make the modern generation very interested in it, even though they find out that their grandparents were involved. They don't seem that interested in getting involved themselves.
I think people who have like their young families, it's a little bit more difficult for them, versus someone who is more like retired and has the time to invest. So, like we know someone else whose father is a Mason and he's a Mason, but he's not involved because he has two young kids and he'd
Yes.
rather be present, with the
Yeah.
children. And maybe when they're a little older, he'll go in line. So I think, honestly, I mean, that is probably one of the most honorable things that a man can do is
Yeah.
hold off on that and be there for his family.
Right.
Masonry, wait. So,
I mean, the only reason I was able to do as much as I did over the last year, especially, and a couple years leading up to that, is because we didn't have kids, and it was just us. And we kind of talked about this going into it. I mean, the main thing that we agreed to, because I didn't know anything about it either when I got involved, was if I see that there's something bad, I'll be out. Like, I'm not going to turn into a devil worshipping, blood drinking vampire. If I see that, I'll just be gone. Like, that was my first promise. And also, you made me promise that I'd tell you everything. And I don't think it took very long to where you didn't really care anymore about hearing about everything. Maybe like within the first year, for sure, you didn't really care anymore about hearing about it. I think you heard too much about it probably at first.
yes.
Maybe the whole time. I don't know. But
It
you
got hard to remember who everyone was. That was more
yeah.
difficult for me
Yeah.
because you tell me stories about things that are happening, but I met them once, or
Yeah.
I don't know. So when you share your stories, I like only know one person in the group, and then over time, obviously, I started to learn more and more about who everyone is. But yeah, it's hard to keep track of everyone.
It was difficult in the beginning because I joined the line very early on as soon as I was raised a Master Mason. And I was not in the lodge that I didn't finish in. I'm not currently in the lodge I started out in. Let's put it that way. And you heard a lot of the drama in the beginning. It was nothing but drama for me. I would come home and be mad and upset, and I'd be gone all the time. And I got to a point, and I've talked about this, where I wasn't making the lodge happy. There was no making them happy. No matter how much time I spent there, it wasn't enough time, is how I felt. And I was certainly not making you happy because I was gone all the time. And when I came home, I just was in a bad mood and kind of sour. And I think you're the one that made me realize, what the heck are you doing? Like, you're miserable all the time. All you do is tell me about the problems in these people. And it got to the point where I left, and I went to another lodge. And I don't know if you remember, but the experience was so different that
Mhm.
I would come home and you'd be like, okay, tell me what happened. And I'm like, nothing. It was good. And you'd be like, what? Where's the drama? Like, you were so used to just that was my Masonic life, was just being miserable,
I
that
know
it took
that's
you a
so
minute
true.
to realize it was different for me
That
when I
that's
moved.
true. But I also was happy for you that to happen. You are pretty anti-organized religion,
Yeah.
and you know when religious people should have moral values about how to treat others and just be a good person. You thought Freemasonry was the answer, that you would find
Yeah.
that there, the best type
Yeah.
of people, because
It's true.
you're trying to be a better man and work on yourself. I guess that's
Yeah.
what Masonry is about. So you were really proud to be a Mason because it's not a
Yeah.
part of an organized religion, and that everyone is going to be perfect there. And I would tell you anytime a group of people are gathered, it's never going to be perfect. No
Yeah.
one's perfect. You're going to get either a bad apple. It is what it is. So when this
Yeah.
happened to you, I was like secretly sad a little bit like, see, I told you that it could be anything. It could be anywhere, religious or not religious, it doesn't matter. But people are people. And anytime you're around people, you're going to have some drama or, just people who aren't doing the right thing. They aren't fair.
Yeah. That's so true. I've always been only experiencing the negative parts of organized religion, the people basically who profess to be something and show you they're not. And I was really, when I joined the fraternity, and to this day, I'm in love with the tenets of this fraternity. Like, I really believe in what it stands for and the way it goes about helping people become better. All of it. I just love it. And I think that's probably how it is for religious people who are caught up in organized religions that are not happy because they believe in what it's supposed to stand for. And they, even though everything around them isn't that, they kind of still stick with it because they believe in the tenets of it. And I've been there in Freemasonry too, so I do understand now after, because I'm thick headed, I got to go through it myself. I do understand that some people are just people. People are greedy, they're selfish, they're insecure, they're hateful. That's how we are as humans, and it doesn't matter what organization or group you join. If there's people there, you're going to get all the above in it too. And the
Mhm.
fraternity is no different. So that's why when I learned that, I really started to surround myself with good people. And I'm wondering if you saw that. Did you feel that at any point that it was changing? I wasn't drama all the time. It was more about
Yeah,
like good people and fun and
it's true what they say when what's the saying? Tell me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Like
yeah,
that's 100% true. If you're surrounded by people who are negative and cause drama and gossip, and you're basically a part of that group, you're that
right,
type of person too. But if you surround yourself with someone who challenges you to be a better person, who tells you where your flaws are, who's just a stand-up guy, you guys rub off onto each other because that's the relationship you have. So I would say yes, you have found some self-respect.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah, I got
this,
that out of my journey in Freemasonry. One of
yeah,
the
you value your time, you value yourself. I mean, you still give 120% to anything you say you're gonna do. If in a perfect world everything goes okay. But yeah, you have definitely have some self-respect now. You're open to quickly seeing your flaws and trying to get better. And yeah, you've improved as a man, I'd say.
that's an interesting thing you brought up there. Trying to catch your flaws and fix them as soon as possible is definitely on my mind all the time. But I know it's also yours too. I think that's something that we share. Uh, and I think that's what maybe makes our relationship so interesting is that we are both trying to improve ourselves and we're both always trying to be better. And we realize this is something I talk about a lot on this podcast is that every time you discover a new truth, it's the death of some truth that you cling to for some time. And once you get new truths and kill the old truths more and more, you realize I don't know anything and I'm never going to know everything. And so all I can do is the best I can with what I have in front of me. And I think that's the mission of our lives is to try to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And it's you never win that one. You're never happy. You're never like reach the pinnacle. I think if you do, you've definitely screwed up somewhere. If you think you've finally become the best person and you know, you're at a place where you're happy and you never want to get better, like you've lost. So we're in, there's a medium I think you have to find. That's where we're at now in our lives, is trying to find a medium where we're still working, still trying to improve, but also enjoying and being happy with what we have. Because today is the youngest we're ever going to be for the rest of our lives, right? And our dogs aren't getting any younger. Look at him behind you there. The old man, he just, sleeps. He can barely get up the stairs now. And you want to enjoy your time. You don't want to regret not being present. And being present's a big part of living a good, happy life, I think.
Mhm.
And it's something I've learned from the fraternity for sure, is that I have to be present more. In the fraternity, it's big about death. They always want to remind you that you are going to die. And men need that, because we think we're going to live forever. We get, we feel strong, we feel cocky, but
Yeah,
nothing lasts.
I would talk about Aries' death, and I know that sounds morbid, but um, we never had a dog pass away naturally growing up. We either had to put it down. So every time I'd bring up Aries, that one day he is gonna die, and you didn't like those conversations. And then over time,
No.
I noticed that you are like, you can't run away from that thought. You can't
Yeah.
run away from what is inevitable. And I even noticed that you treat Aries different once it sunk in. That you
Yeah.
aren't so mad at him, like, if he does something that's, doesn't listen or whatever it may be, you're more like forgiving, because you're like,
Yeah.
you don't have forever. And
Yeah.
maybe you got that out of, I don't know, Masonic death conversations. I don't know. But maybe doing funerals, a combination of that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I did that. At the end of my Masonic journey here last year, when I was doing all that stuff, I did a lot of funerals, and I think it was one of the most impactful things. Um, that will definitely get you thinking about life when you go to a funeral, because you see death and you see the effects of it. And I did funerals 90% of the time for people I never met. But there at the end, I would sit in the back and watch the entire service once the Masonic funeral was done, because I wanted to see how the family talked about the dead father, grandfather. And I was just always fascinated by the impact that Masonry would have on some of these people's lives, because I'd watch the children talking about the father, and they're saying a lot of Masonic things that he did in his life with his children that they didn't even know were Masonic. And it was pretty fascinating to me. And, it's hard not to go to a funeral and think about your own funeral. But I did funerals for people I knew, and that was very different, because you're so focused on the loss of your friend. But I would say it made a big impact on my outlook on life, and something I think more people should get involved in, if you're in Masonry, is going to support any Mason who's having a funeral, or if you can be part of the funeral service, because it's really beautiful too. I've never been to an actual funeral. I've only been to Masonic funerals, believe that or not.
Well, that's, I guess, a good thing, right?
Even when my mother passed away, we didn't really do a funeral. We just did a celebration of life, which was nothing like a funeral, probably.
It's becoming more popular to do that.
Yeah. Um, does your family do funerals, or do they do these? I bet they're pretty formal. You probably have actual funeral services, right? When someone
I've
passes away.
been to my grandparents' funeral, and yeah, it's like pretty the traditional with the
Traditional.
casket. And, yeah.
And you had a young cousin pass away last year. Did he have a funeral formal?
Yep,
Yeah. So the
exactly.
family's keeping that tradition going. So,
I have a
what do
question for
you
you.
go? You have a question for me,
Yeah, I know
or
you're
a
supposed to
statement?
be interviewing me, but
Shoot.
shoot. Okay. So, how is it for you? Because this has been quite a transition, going from where your Masonic career was back in Florida to where you are now in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Um, Basically uprooting yourself and everything that you invested in there in Sarasota, and then moving to another state. as well as some changes Masonically in your career and in the podcast. How's that
Hmm.
transition for you?
Well, you know me well enough to know that I adapt to change. I'm not one of those people that fears change as much. So it's not that I'm afraid of it. It is a big change, a lot of big changes. I mean, we get to spend a lot more time together, which I'm very happy about. Um, Probably not so much you, because you used to to watch a lot of shows when I was gone, and you probably don't watch those shows now. uh, but we can watch girl shows. I'm not opposed to that. You know, I would come home from a lodge meeting, and my wife would be there watching, for example, like The Crown. And I don't know anything about it, but she wants to finish the episode. So I'm like, yeah, yeah, finish the episode. And I get sucked in the last 10 minutes. And now I'm kind of mad because I'm like, want to know what's going to happen to this lady next week. But then you keep watching without me. And you even seen shows that you're like, I have to watch this with you, and rewatched it with me. So it's good because we get to watch things together now and be together more with the dogs who are getting older. And it's a big transition. So I was not built to be in the limelight. I don't think. I'm not a person who's ever enjoyed being the center of attention like you. Um,
Me? I do not enjoy it
I know
either.
you don't. I know. And
Yeah.
I'm the same way. You know, it's sad because you're built for it. Like you got all the things that would make you be the center of attention in life. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're funny, you have a good personality. You have all the ingredients to be a very charismatic leader, but you don't want to be the center of attention. And I don't knock it because I'm the same way. Um, I know that I was lucky because I was born straight and I'm white and I have hair and blue eyes. Like I have every advantage you could be born with in this world, and except money. I wasn't born into wealth, but again, I had all the other advantages, so I could figure that one out. The thing is, it's like there, I don't know. It's the way we're raised, maybe, um, that you just don't think that you are a leader inside you, even though other people see you differently than you see yourself. Because I see you always have as a leader, and I know a lot of other people do. But it's been years of trying to convince you that you are a leader to get you to even open the door to the idea that you could do it. It's tough.
Um,
It's tough.
I mean, I've always had the tendency like to be like in a leadership position. I think naturally gravitate towards
No,
that.
that is
But
because
not
that's
this
because you
attention.
worked hard. And I know it, at every job you had, you worked really hard. And people that work really hard naturally get promoted to leadership positions.
Mhm.
So it's the same for me.
Like the center of attention. Even when we have company meetings, just knowing that everyone's looking at me and I'm talking, that gives me like anxiety. I've gotten
Yeah.
better over time, but it's not easy.
So I was in a position where I had to give lectures, 30-minute, 40-minute lectures often. I would often be for hours sitting in front of everybody, running business meetings with 50 or 60 guys in the room, having to give speeches. You know, when you're at a funeral service and you're talking in front of all those people, and it's very serious business. And then even when I would visit other Masonic groups and have to speak about things that I created, like the Grand Lodge membership uh, reimbursement program. You know, I would have to be in front of a lot of people, and that gave me so much anxiety, uh, so much anxiety. But I'm grateful for it because it's pushed me way outside my comfort zone and made me feel, like you said, more confident in the end. Even though I'm not in a place where I'm ever going to enjoy being the center of attention, I don't think I can handle it. I'm not like, if it comes to me, I'll do my best. That's all I can do. And I know that I'll survive. Uh, and so that was a great gift I got from all the work I did over the years from the fraternity, is that self confidence and self worth, like you said. Um, However, it's a bit of a relief to me to step away from it all because I'm not comfortable with any of that. It's too far outside my comfort zone, and to live in that was stressful for me. I'm just not someone who likes that leadership, elevated center of attention. Well, there are people that are made for that. We both know that. People who just can't, they love to hear themselves talk. They want to be the center of attention. We know people like that. Uh, I guess I tell myself I'm more of like a gladiator in the pit. I want to fight. I want to be a worker. I don't want to be in the leadership row over there with the old men talking and the young men down here dying. I want to be dying with the young men. Like I'm one of the men, and I feel more comfortable now because the podcast is changing. Obviously, Fred is moving on, and we're trying to go in a different direction. But I can still do the parts of the things that I love. Like I can learn, I can talk, I can explore, I can ask questions, I can help people. But I don't have to necessarily be the center of attention anymore. Like I don't have to be in front of a lodge of 60 guys twice a month. I don't have to, go to this meeting or that meeting randomly and give lectures and speeches. That's for other people to do now because I did the best I could, and I'm comfortable walking away from it knowing that I did the best I could. I gave it everything I had, everything. I left
That is
nothing on the
true.
table.
You
With the
did
time that I
everything.
had, I really was aware that people were watching and that in the future other people might talk about the things I was doing and try to emulate them. And so I didn't want to be a bad example. I wanted to be the best example I could be for the future generations that might come behind me. As that probably sounds like really cocky or something, but that's where my
Well,
mind
because
was.
we tell our like we have directors meeting every Monday, and we always tell them, because there are leaders, there are managers, we tell them lead by example all the time. And that's what a leader is. You have to show them how it's done. So I don't think it's what you think it is. It's the opposite. It's actually being a good leader.
Yeah,
You have to show them how it's done, even if it's not perfect, even
right.
if there's like certain things that didn't turn out as well as we thought. It doesn't matter. You still have to show them how it's done the best of your ability. Um, in a fashion where you are including everyone and it's not egotistic, obviously, but you're doing a good thing. That's great.
I think that's what you just said is one of the most important parts of leadership. People never want to show you that they are human or that they made a mistake, or people only want you to see the best parts of them. They don't want to show you the whole picture because some of that could be embarrassing. But I think a good leader shows you the whole picture. They don't hide anything. You make a mistake, the best thing you can do as a leader is stand up and say, hey, everybody, I want to take this moment to examine the mistake I made. Let's look at it from all the angles. Let me tell you how I handled the mistake and what I did, and think about what you would do if you were in my position. Like, that's the best thing you could do with a mistake, is bring it to the forefront and talk about it and learn from it, because wisdom is the accumulation of mistakes. And I think if you can learn from someone else's mistake, that's the highest level of wisdom.
Yeah.
I've always been low level where I have to make the mistakes myself to learn. But I think people that can learn from other people are on a whole nother level and are going to exceed even more. And some of that is empathy too, which people lack. But that's something that I think can be learned. A lot of people don't care about a thing until it affects them, right? Nobody cares about cancer until your mother has cancer or your wife gets cancer. All of a sudden, you care a lot about cancer. Like, there's people dying of cancer all over the place all the time. It's like, and I know you can't care about everything, but I think teaching yourself to care about things and have empathy for others and to put yourself in your place is a good thing. Within
Yeah.
reason, within reason. You don't go too far. You don't want to beat yourself down to where you're, scared to even go outside anymore because you think you're horrible. But you definitely have to keep yourself in check. And people, Well, last year I was in charge of a lot of things. I was in the forefront all the time, and I heard people say, "Oh, he's got a big head," or "He loves being the center of attention," and they have no idea how untrue that was. But what are you going to do? You can't. You just all you can do is the best you can with what you have, right? And try to
And
be
people will
yourself
always
as
have
much as you
opinions.
can.
Yeah, people will always have an opinion about someone or something.
Yeah, everyone. It's like you
Like,
can always do better, right? Yeah.
right. There's a quote I saw somewhere how like the mentality of a human being is like if you have nothing better to do, you're going to be the person that will gossip and talk negative about others. If you're a little bit more level-headed, maybe you'll have conversations about like uh what's happening in I don't know society, real things that are actual problems, in this world.
Hmm.
And then like the highest tier of knowledge is more like being able to just live life and move forward with whatever is in front of you with the best attitude that you can have, and you're not sitting there wasting time and looking at left and right, what is he doing, what is she doing, and gossiping, and you're like literally just living your life. So I don't know, there's a quote for it. It's a lot shorter than my long version here.
There is
But it's
now a quote by Catherine Ponomarenko Burns.
I'll find it and I'll share it. But it's good because it's true.
Yeah,
um,
another thing that's different about you and me, and I think you realize this, I would only ask you to go to the things that were important, that I felt were important to me. I didn't bother you to go to everything that was Masonic. You weren't there every Tuesday at my meetings. You weren't there for the dinners. You didn't go to a lot of things because I didn't want to bother you with that. That's my thing, and you have your things going on. But when I asked you to come to things that were important to me, you did. And
mhm.
like for you, if you asked me to go to something that's important for you, I would go. If you were like every weekend, let's go to my parents' house, let's go to my parents' house, I'd be like, geez, why don't you move in? And I'm pretty sure if I asked you, hey, come to the lodge, you'd be like, geez, why don't we move in? So I know it was different because you got caught in many conversations with other women in the fraternity who had ideas about me, what I was doing, and your role in all of it. And were women surprised that you didn't think like they thought? Or do you think that they were understanding of that it's different for you than it is for them?
I think after we talked, hopefully that they would think that it's just different for me than it is. But yeah, majority of wives, especially if you're like what do you call it, Mr. President, the King, you're the Grand Master. Is that
Worshipful master.
worshipful master?
Yeah.
Yes. If you're the worshipful master, like the wife has to do something, just like the president's wife. She has
Right.
to be involved in some way. I think that's just like an unspoken rule.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably different that I wasn't, I can imagine. And I was approached a few times asking. And I mean, I don't know if everyone knows, but we both run a company. We work to support ourselves and about 15 to 25 other employees, depending on, we have that many. But yeah, it's a lot to do. There's a lot going on in our personal lives outside of his Masonic career. So in my mind, my main focus is the company, and
Right.
obviously our relationship is as important. But your commitment to the lodge isn't something that like requires my presence.
Right.
That's I like your hobby, your choice. You decided to do this, so
Right.
you have a blessing. Go for it. But it's not my thing. It's your thing. So
Yeah.
why do I have to do it if I'm not really interested in it? I don't find anything. I don't find it fun. No offense.
No, I
Um,
mean, I get it. I mean, the things I would ask you to go to, I don't know that I always found it fun, but they were important to me that you be there. And, we both knew it might not be fun for both of us, some of the events we'd go to, but we would try to have fun ourselves anyways, and that's what we always did, I think. This past year, when the Grand Master comes to visit your district, it's called the official visit of the Grand Master. And this year I was on something and I had to sit at the big table with the Grand Master and all the important people. And I can't be there without my wife. So I invited you. And you knew what you're getting into because we've been to these before.
We're here.
So what do? Well, we found a couple roughly our age, and they brought their kid, and they were sitting next to us, and we just laughed and talked, and we had fun ourselves at that micro level, even though maybe the big event we weren't engaged in that much. We found a way to go, be there, and still enjoy ourselves. And I think that's, if I ever invited you to anything that was Masonic, I always tried to make it that way, that you would, maybe not like want to gouge your eyes out the whole time you were there. It's difficult when
No,
I'm taken away and I have to speak and stuff because I can't be with you. But I'm sure it's entertaining for you to see me have to squirm and talk in front of people. I
yeah,
know it would be
no.
for me. I'd be proud to see you talking at something that was a hobby of yours that I got to go to.
I don't think people realize that you're squirming inside. You're very good at acting because you can't tell when you're up there talking. I know what's going on inside of you, but I don't think people know that you're like sweating buckets and wanting to throw up.
Yeah, Right Worshipful Barry Hart said it at my installation. I'm sorry, it was at Zach's installation this year. Worshipful Master Zach Wheatley's installation. He said, I know Chris made it look easy for him, but he said it's like a duck. It looks all calm and perfect on the surface, but underneath it's like paddling, and that's how it was for me. But I think we have a very modern relationship, right? Like, I respect you as an individual, as a person. I want to see you grow to your full potential and be whatever you can be in this world. I don't expect you to be following me around as like an accessory in my life. Like, you're a person, an individual, and you deserve, freedom and respect. And that's why I didn't try to drag you along to everything, because I wanted to respect your time. There were things that were important to me, and I think you knew that, and that's why you came. And I always appreciated that. But there were other
The
times
only
like,
thing I don't
man,
understand, not that I want to be a Freemason, but how in the UK women can be
yeah,
Freemason, but in America you can't. Just shows how behind we are as a country. That's all I'm
yeah,
gonna say. And you guys like need to. I don't know. I don't know what Masonic like. Why you guys can't change things or why it takes
yeah,
so long. But
yeah.
I don't know. Don't you guys want to survive as a fraternity? Maybe you guys need to evolve a little bit. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, because you would have no women coming to the meetings. They'd all get initiated, and then they'd be bored in 10 seconds and be like, "Nah, this isn't for me."
Look, it's just the fact that you can or you can't, you know? And
So
there's a country that does it. UK does it. It's not like it's a crazy
no, I
thing that
agree.
no other.
And a lot of guys, like, once they've gone through Masonry, they do miss out having their wives involved. And so even in the United States, we have the Eastern Star, which is like very similar to traditional Masonry, only it's for the men and women to do it together, and the women are in charge, and the women run things, not the men. So even though it's not like England where we're equals, there is a way for women that want to be involved to actually get involved and do it. So you were invited to do that many times, I'm sure. I'm sure. Anytime. That's the thing. Anytime you go to a Masonic event, many people are going to invite you to do stuff, right? Did you ever go and somebody not invite you to join something or help them somehow?
Say that again?
Did you ever go to a Masonic event where somebody at some point didn't invite you to join something or invite you to help them do something?
I think it slowed down maybe over time
Mm.
because I might have gotten a little vocal.
Oh, you just
Like, I don't care to be asked, but asked more than once all the time. And my clear answer in a very kind way was like, I They meet during the day. I run a business. I'm not retired, and
Right.
I'm not interested either way. Not
Yeah.
like my goals in life to be a lady star thing.
Well, I know
So I
that
think I got the hint over time.
you enjoyed some things in the fraternity that you weren't even involved in. I know you saw something on Facebook that I was involved in, and you got emotional about it. And that happened a couple times.
Oh
So
yeah, don't get me wrong. We did outdoor movies. We love that, especially when it's the cold weather. There was some game nights that we did. That was fun. Um,
a lot of game nights,
mm,
and we
we
met
did a
some.
basketball tournament, and that
Yes,
was so fun. I've never played the game before, and we came like second place, and that was like shocking.
I
So,
mean, we cheated a little. We were out, and they let us back in. We cheated a little. Don't tell anyone, but we won like
um,
second place because we cheated.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I shouldn't have told you. Made you think that we
Oh,
did it fair
wow.
and square.
I was like, wow, we're so amazing.
That was
Well, that
brother Marty.
makes sense.
Marty Saya and his wife play a lot, and I remember they were teaching us on the fly, like how to throw the bags and to pay attention.
Hmm.
Like everything we do, we adapted as quickly as possible and got really good pretty quick.
Yeah, that
Even
was fun.
Marty was like at the end, he was like, "Man, I'm glad I didn't have to play this you. I got to play the crappy you in the beginning."
Yeah, so I mean, we did some fun things over the years. I didn't want to go every time. And
Right?
Chris is so involved.
Yeah, it would have
That's
been
just who he
nonstop for you.
is. And I'm not that type of person. Like, I learned to have a little bit of self-respect earlier on in life than Chris did.
But look, we had some great times. Like for my birthday, we were going to Mardi Gras, and a Mason, Bill Katzelis, got us on a float at Mardi
Yes.
Gras, and you got to meet the Jeremy Barnes, the guy that runs the Mason app there, and we hung out with them. So you, even though you weren't really, you didn't know who these people were, you got to enjoy some of the benefits, and we met people like Worshipful Ramon and Finkelstein and
Oh, absolutely. I met some amazing people that we consider friends for life.
for life.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
is for sure. And, the amount of help we receive from these like relationships
Yeah.
is just, it goes both ways, but it's been nothing like a different people that I've met. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe because you can trust Masons more, not all Masons,
Yeah.
but I don't know how to
Well, like I
explain it.
said, I really surrounded myself with the core of the real deal, like real Masons. And that doesn't mean they were perfect people. That just means they were people who were actively trying to get better. And
Yeah.
when you're around people like that, it is different. People who are really focused on being better. And you can overlook a lot of the flaws when you know they're trying, right?
Mhm.
But when they have the flaws and they're not even trying to fix them, who has time for that? I don't have time for that in my life.
Right.
But yeah, to answer your question from a while back, the transition is jarring. It's vastly different. My life from December to my life in January, it's crazy different. But I'm getting to focus on beekeeping, helping you maybe put some chickens in the yard, fixing up the house, like things that I've not been able to do for a long time. And so I'm enjoying all of it. And I really do want to write here, which is, one of the things I'm very interested in. Um, Writing is a way that I can get my thoughts out without having to be the center of attention necessarily. So I'm really fond of the idea of writing. Plus, sometimes I say stupid things. And when you're writing, you have editors and they can make sure you don't do that. I don't know how many times my wife has to go behind me and tell people I'm just kidding because I don't realize they don't know I'm joking.
Yeah, sometimes you say things and I'm like, wow, if like I didn't know you too well, it could come off like, did that just leave his mouth, those words?
Like a
So
big
I'm like,
jerk.
"Guys,
Like,
he's kidding. If you know him, but it's just
yeah. Well, you introduced me to sarcasm.
yes,
I didn't know what that was,
the best
really.
form of comedy.
Yeah, it is. because you have to be clever to use sarcasm.
Yes.
Yeah. And you introduced me to Friends, the TV show, and The Office, and these things that were really transformative for me that I had always avoided because I thought they were dumb. But they're not dumb. They're just sarcasm. Use a lot of sarcasm. And so now I'm very sarcastic because you made me this way.
Well, there's lines like to everything.
There's lines. It can go too far.
Yes, always.
Well,
It's more like our employees when this happens. I feel this way if it's like a new team member and you say something and then their faces like just they get wide-eyed and I'm like, oh, he's kidding. I think also because I'm like HR too a little bit at the office, so
yes.
I have to make sure it's like, okay, it could be offensive what he just said, but he's not like that. I swear.
Well, yeah, because I'm just trying to be funny. And
Yes.
sometimes being outrageous is, to me, it's funny to say something outrageous that isn't real. It's a funny thing. But I get it because before I met you, I was very literal. So when people were being sarcastic, I thought it was rude, and I didn't understand that they're being funny. So I guess it's like everything. The pendulum swings. Sometimes swings too far.
Gotten better.
Got to adjust that. Not go too far. So over the last 5 years, looking back, give me like a couple of your fondest memories that Freemasonry was involved in, thinking back. Really putting her on the spot now. She was like, do I get a list of questions? Can we talk? I'm like, no, it's all going to be real, live.
There's a couple things. I think one of the things I enjoyed, at least with you, we love history, we love learning, and I think you wanted to learn more about Freemasons and the history and like Knights Templar and all that stuff and the evolution of how Freemasons have become. I love learning, so I would watch those documentaries with you because I'm just as curious. And I think
yeah, we did. Even the TV shows like Nightfall, we watched a couple seasons of that.
We were in Paris and we went to what's his name?
Jacques de Molay.
Jacques de Molay was burnt. Yes, so like all of those things with history and documentaries and learning all that, for me, it's just crazy because like you're a part of that fraternity and the history behind it and all the countries that were, involved. I don't know. It's my mind was like blown. So I love that part of Freemasonry. And I would tease Chris, say, I think I know more about Freemasonry than, some of the guys there. Only
That's
because
true.
I've watched every documentary with Chris, just about every documentary out there, even the bad ones.
Yeah.
We've seen them all.
Yeah, that's true.
Other things were to see you become a better person. I think that is probably the most rewarding in the 5-6 years that you've been doing this. You just self-reflect when you did something that you thought might have been inappropriate, incorrect. Like, I don't know the details, but if you thought you didn't talk to someone the right way or you treated someone not as good as you'd like because of emotions. So I've just seen you grow a lot as a person within these, 5-6 years. I think those two are probably the best. And with the relationship that we fostered, I think that's also something that is really cool that, in the past few years, we're able to make some good friends that are good people, like genuine.
Yeah. And, I remember we did a esoteric discussion group one night at our house, and you were gone maybe when it started, but I think you came in and you started watching TV in the bedroom, and we were outside with cigar and pizza and whiskey around the fireplace, and everybody left, and you came out to inspect the damage. And my wife is very, very OCD about cleanliness. Like if she's gone for the weekend, she knows where you were. She knows what trash you used. Like she can do it in 2 seconds. She can be like, oh, spend a lot of time on that, blah, blah, blah. So she came out and I was like, here we go. And you were like, wow, you have really good friends. They've really cleaned up after themselves. And I was like, wow, I have good friends. My wife says I have good friends. Because they did.
It's people who are what's the word? No, off the top of my head. Inconsiderate. There you go. People who are inconsiderate. I can't with that. Like if you're in someone's home or you just got to be considerate. Do the minimal, like throw away your stuff or like. So yeah, they were very considerate. Very considerate. They cleaned up after themselves. And no offense, but most men don't do that.
That's right.
So it was really nice to see that a bunch of there was 20 to 30 people, and you would think that large number, in your home, it's going to be a mess. You're going to have to clean up after everyone. So yeah, it was really nice to be like, I don't have to clean up after everyone. This is amazing.
People threw away their trash and washed their dishes and all that.
It's the simple things in life. Just clean up after yourself. And it was just really, really nice. I was like, wow. You can have more of these events at our house because there was a time through an event, and I don't know who it was or what child it was, but someone did something in our bathroom or in our master.
Yes.
And I was like appalled. Well, someone peed. I would say some child didn't hold it in and peed on our master bedroom. We had carpet at the time. It was it was.
That was a Memorial Day party we threw with tons of people, and we don't even know who it was, but somebody's kid got loose in our bedroom and peed on the carpet. We didn't realize. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So,
let's hope it was a child, right? Let's hope it wasn't a grown person who went in there and peed on the carpet.
Yes. I mean, you gotta go, I guess, but there's bushes outside too.
And so that's the good part. Is there anything that you don't miss now that I'm out of it? Out of being actively involved in an officer line? I'm still a Mason and will be for the rest of my life, but I'm not out there all the time like I used to be. Anything you're not going to miss?
I think it's nice to see you be less stressed.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really nice. Like I mentioned, we own a company and it goes through good times and bad times. And that in itself is already a stress. And then being so involved at the lodge is another stress, especially when things don't go the way we wanted to. And just to see you be less stressed, it makes me so happy because I feel like you enjoy life a little bit more. I don't know how, it's new. It's all new because we moved to another state, so we're still adjusting. But I can tell because you're sleeping better. You're sleeping longer. You used to sleep 4 hours a night. Now you're like, I don't know how I sleep so long. So I can see that, taking time for yourself, your mental health, your physical health is important. Seeing you go through the 5-6 years, it put a lot of strain and stress on you, and it wasn't always the best. So that would be the negative side, but that's because of who you are. You are really involved when you commit to something, and it could hurt you and maybe others around you because all of your time is spent there. But yeah, that's probably one of the negative things. You spent a lot of time and commitment, and you kept saying yes to everything for the most part. Not everything, but you would say yes to a lot. Yeah. And that would put more and more on your plate. So that would cause you to stress out more, which stresses out our family, which isn't good. But yeah, I would say that's probably one of the negative things.
People don't talk about this stuff, they talk about the fraternity and being leaders in it and all that, but they don't talk about the cost of all that. and there is a cost. There is going to be a cost at some point, and last year was the worst of as far as my time involvement, because I was the worshipful master of my lodge. I was representing the marketing reimbursement program for Grand Lodge, so I was traveling all over the state. I was a district committeeman for public relations, so I had to visit all the lodges in my district. Plus, I'm a super active ritualist, so I had to be at every degree that I could get to, even outside my district. I was traveling up to Hillsborough for degrees and stuff. I was the president of the Master Mason Association, so I had to put on like a big fundraiser, which was super stressful for me. And I was president of the Scottish Rite Club. All of that last year. And in the middle of the year, our company took a major hit, and we were experiencing great turmoil professionally. And at the same time, a lot of the Masonic stuff I was doing was also, a lot of things were coming to a head at the same time. So I was, and it's not like your wife can really feel bad about the Masonic stuff because you chose it, right? Like you brought that into your life. Like I got that. So I honestly tried to deal with it as much as I could without complaining to you. But there's no way you could not be affected by the stress I was under. I had 3 full-on panic attacks last year because of the combination of the work and the Masonic life stress. And my mother passed, and there's just so much that went on last year that I kept to myself, or internalized maybe more than I should have. And I think people don't talk about that enough. Like, to be that active, to be that engaged, to be that out front is going to impact other parts of your life. And we really do need to seek a balance. I don't know why I get so over the top involved in the things I'm involved in. I don't know. I think the Masonic idea of you're going to die any minute fueled that. Like, I got to do it. If I'm going to do it, I got to do it now. I got to do it big. I got to do it right. And my whole life is like that, right? Like, if I get into
Yeah, I was gonna
beekeeping,
say, I don't think it's just Mason stuff.
no,
You're just that way.
yeah,
You're just that way with life. Everything that you commit to, you give 120%. And
yeah,
I think you don't know when to say no because you do want to help. You genuinely want to do some good and help, and you know that you can if you're involved.
yeah,
It's just you can't do it successfully if
yeah.
you take on too much.
You need to find a
So
balance in your life,
yes.
and you need to find time to help and time to help yourself. And I had no time to help myself in the last 18 months of my life. I stopped exercising, going to the gym. I've got myself into the worst physical shape of my life. But I helped a lot of people. I was able to do a lot of good. I just wish I did it a little slower and a little more balanced, I think, personally. Because now I have to repair a lot of the damage to my body and to myself that I've done in not
Live and
paying
learn.
attention to myself. And it's not fun to fix that stuff. But at least I have a nice house. We got a couple acres. We're up here in the wilderness. We're waiting to see our first UFO. Know it's coming, just don't know when. My wife does not want to be abducted, so we got into an argument one day because I told her I would never tell her if I knew, as long as or I would let her be abducted as long as the aliens promised me that they'd wipe her memory and she wouldn't remember it. Remember that argument?
Yes, I
Like,
do. I
but you
said
get
I
to
don't want it.
experience it, but you won't remember. So it's like the best.
I still don't want it.
And
Him. You can see him.
yeah, you can take me. I'm cool with that. I'll be the worst representative of people. They'd be like, wow, this planet is crazy of people like this. But, we have our dogs. We have some animals. We have some time now. We live in a place where the people are super nice. We used to live in Sarasota, Florida, which was a big, busy city. And it's always kind of stressful to be in a big, busy city. Traffic stresses you out. Like, I gotta leave 20 minutes early to get to the place that's only 5 minutes away because of traffic and people. And that leaving that kind of a stress behind is a big sigh of relief, I think, because we've been living in a city, think about it, for over a decade. We lived
In
downtown
Sarasota?
like 11,
Yeah,
12
I
years
mean,
ago.
I've lived in Florida for over 20 years.
So it's a big step for you too, walking away from all that.
Moved for a long time. Like I told you, you didn't realize that this is what I wanted to retire in. I wanted to
When I
have.
started talking to people about what was going to happen, their first statement to me always was, well, what does Catherine think about this? What do you mean? What does she think about this? Oh, yeah, I don't have sound effects yet. I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to do this. I didn't realize it was going to happen so soon in life. I thought it would be years down the road, but there's no time like the present. I mean, the situation that we were in, everything aligned the way it did so naturally. We didn't have to try too hard, just everything just like a puzzle piece that went together so nicely,
Yeah.
and you can't fight it if it happens that way.
You kind of know when you're on the right path. Sometimes you just know.
Yeah.
And life was
Definitely.
definitely telling us this is good, this is right, this is now time to do this. It really all started because we had a conversation out of frustration with our work one night, and you said to me, I don't know what you think we're doing here, but I don't need to be the king of a massive empire. Like, I just want to be happy. And I'm like, what? I thought we were trying to
Yeah,
build
and
this
I found
massive
that so
company here.
crazy because we've been doing this for so long. It's like, how were our goals not aligned? I didn't
It's
realize that.
crazy.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
But
People
yeah,
don't just
what?
sit down and have that kind of like most basic conversation with each other of, are you happy? What do you want in life? Like,
Yeah, and we both were like, this isn't what we want. We don't want to build a multi-million-dollar company and build like basically dig our own graves with the amount of stress that we've been enduring. So I think once we had that conversation, it was more like, okay, yeah, you want what I want what you want, so let's just make this happen. And I think after that conversation, I kid you not, a month later our house was listed for sale. It was just like, let's do this. I want to do it.
you gave me the permission I needed to make the
I
changes.
just, it's crazy.
Because
Yeah.
our business is like a couple $1 million. It's not like a tiny little thing. We have a small business, but in my mind, it needed to be a $40 million business, and that's what I was pushing for. So to hear you say that's not what I want, I just want to be happy and secure and like do good work. I'm like, whoa, we have that already. All we got to do is like, streamline it now. And that's what we
Yeah.
have done professionally, is kind of streamline everything and get
And
our
how much
lives.
better does it feel now?
Oh, so good. So good to be in a place where you're profitable, things are manageable. You can handle it 100%. It's a way different life than scrambling all the time and not having enough and never being
Mm,
really satisfied. Yeah, it's not a good way to live.
no.
You got to
And
find
I
a
think
way to
it's okay to
feel
be a little
happy
selfish. Yeah.
with what you got. And I'm really happy, and I'm grateful that you are my first guest on the new On the Level podcast.
It
Really,
was my
really,
idea.
it was your idea. And that must
Thank
go to show you that she still supports the fraternity and my involvement in it. And I know you don't like being in the limelight, so I'm super happy that. And I wanted to live stream this, and she did say no to that. So she has her limits on what she's
I
willing to
didn't
do.
even realize we were doing this today. I'm like, I didn't do my hair. I like basically my pajamas, like literally.
I mean, most people are going to listen to this on the podcast. They're not going to see you. But I am going to publish this, so this will be visible on the internet for all time. And when
Maybe
you're
we should.
90, you're going to look back on this and you'll be happy you did it. Don't you worry.
Oh, great.
Do you have any parting thoughts for any of the women out there that have husbands that are overly involved in the fraternity? Or
I think communication is key.
talk?
I think, yeah, talking and making sure you guys are on the same page. I knew I know who Chris is. I knew the way he was going to be when he joined. He didn't come to me as a surprise when he wanted to be so involved. And I made it very clear where I stand with it, that I don't really want to go to all of these events. So I think when it comes to our relationship in Freemasonry, we're both on the same page from day one. Like, you knew that I didn't want to go to all of them, and I know that you're going to give your all until the end. And I think because we were, talking to each other and communicating throughout the whole time, it made it a lot easier. I think that if you're not like Chris and you didn't know that your husband was going to be so involved, I think you should have that conversation on, okay, well, how much longer are you planning to do this for? Or how involved do you want to be in this? Or, maybe meet in the middle somewhere. I've seen, I've heard at least certain wives that are so anti-masonry that they make the husbands demote and stuff. I don't know. I'm not that extreme. I think that, we're humans. We should have the freedom to do what we want to do with our time for the most part. Not that you shouldn't be focused on family. Obviously, that's super important. But I think if a man is trying to be a better person, I don't see why that would ever be a negative thing. So I think find out the goals too. Why does he want to be a Freemason is another question that I'd ask. Do you want to become a better person? Are you looking to make friends? Are you looking to network? I don't know. There's so many different reasons why people join. And if it doesn't make sense, then obviously, that conversation needs to be had. But if a person wants to be better, I don't see why that would ever be a negative thing. But yeah, I think overall communication is probably the most important thing.
As is everything in life, it's all about communication, and you got to use your words and be honest with each other. That's some good relationship advice.
We also share a calendar. He would put stuff on the calendar a lot, and I would know. And it was really helpful because if I knew he was gone, I could make plans with friends and family. I didn't have to wait and be like, "Oh, you never told me you have something after work." He would put everything on our calendar, and I would see everything that he's doing, to the point where it's just even if it's a 30-minute meeting over video, he would still put it on our calendar just so we can plan accordingly. And that was such a game changer. The
Yeah.
calendar, I don't know because we own a business and we have to get organized, but that is something I highly recommend. If you have a husband that is super involved and you want to make sure you're, knowing what's going on, because I'm sure half the time they don't. Make sure it's on the calendar and then you share the calendar so you can see it on your phone, or if you have to write it down on a physical calendar, do that. But it's helpful.
I know that did help a lot when we started. I started just putting it all on the calendar, and you would know. And I'd be loath to put it on the calendars because I'm like, oh, when she sees this, she's not going to be happy. But really, I mean, the only times you got mad is when I did things and they weren't on the calendar. And I'm like, ugh, why didn't I put it on the calendar?
Or the weekends. We work over 40 hours during the week. So if you're gone on the weekend as well as doing things during the week, I would get a little bit frustrated because I'm like, well, we don't have plans to do things that we wanted to. I don't know, take a day trip or something. It was just like, oh, I gotta go again. And I'm like, okay, you need to create a schedule, maybe one weekend a month or something, or train someone to do the things that, require someone to be there. So those were the other things that.
That's really important point. What you said there is because the fraternity is lacking leadership. I mean, no one questions that, and I'm sure that's true of every jurisdiction in every country in the world. It's a fraternity, which means it's a volunteer organization, and people just don't volunteer willy nilly much these days. But when you do, they need you badly, and it's really hard to care and be passionate and say no. And so you do wind up engaging a lot and saying, yes, I can do that. Don't worry, I got this. I'll handle that. And before you know it, you're way over involved. And I think the answer to that is to 50% of your time should be spent doing the things that need to be done. And the other 50% of your time should be spent finding other people to help do the things that need to be done. And I got there eventually. It took me a while, but I did wind up getting to the point where I was just as focused on finding good people that could, benefit and also help as I was doing the work. And that paid off dividends in the end, in the long run. And I think the whole fraternity needs to learn that lesson.
But he's been licking the couch.
I was going to say, like, what's on the couch? Because it's, like, really wet.
He's licking himself because he's the only one that sits on there.
He's straight up licking the couch right now. That's not even himself he's licking.
Aries, what are you doing? Aries.
Huh?
There you go. That is a wet spot right
I see
there.
it. He's got one under his paw, too.
One more under there. Jeez, buddy.
If I didn't know any better, I'd have said you were peeing on the couch over there. But
yeah.
All right, we're almost an hour and 20 minutes in. Wow. Yep, I know. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and hopefully people have listened all the way to the end. If they have, then you guys are the best. You are our heroes. Thank you for doing that. And go ahead and leave us your feedback. And if you have an idea or you want to be on the show, now is the time. I'm a lot more open to having guests and co-hosts, and we want to try out different things. It can't just be.
Sorry, this is my first time doing this, so I don't know how to do podcasts, like a trend. Everyone wants to do a podcast these days.
Yes.
There's not more podcast material.
Is this your first podcast?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Extra, for being on. Well, thank you again for being on the show. And maybe you'll come back.
If there's good feedback. If there isn't, I probably won't.
All right. Okay. Until next time. On the level, out. Bye, guys.